From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
And good Sunday morning to you. Another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, December 20th. We had a very busy week this week with a nor'easter that affected the region and dumped pretty much area-wide snowfall. And areas further southeast, of course, remained rain. But we had that projected pretty well. We're a little low in a few areas, but this is pretty good for a first big storm that we have been missing for the better part of 2 years before we had anything of a significance. Since we had anything of significance. So going forward here, we're going to look at the long range that we did on Friday. And we generally have slightly below to generally near average weather coming here in the upcoming week. And then we have a big spike in temperatures ahead of a very strong cold front that's going to come on Thursday, Christmas Eve. That's going to last into the night. And then the temperatures are going to crash on Christmas Day. So any morning highs that start off earlier in the day are going to crash downward quite a bit as that front works through, and there might even be some flakes for some of you and some accumulating snow in the far interior before it is all said and done on the backside of that. But I wouldn't get excited about a white Christmas for most of us, at least not the populated areas further east. I'll show you that in a second. And then we get into a below average period after that, right after from Christmas and beyond for a couple days. And then we're kind of hanging around near average straight through the first week of the month of January. So very late this month and around Christmas, New Year's Eve, and then going right into the first week of January. I do think we have a thaw period coming here, but this might be limited. And I didn't want to get too aggressive with this once we got past mid-January and kept it slightly above average for now, but I'm starting to see signals that that's going to change, and we're going to head back to slightly below average and some storm signals here in the second half. So we might have a thaw period coming in, so to speak. Especially that second week of January, but after that, I don't know about that. We'll see. Okay? Looks like it's some indications that if some stratospheric changes come into play, we could be not slightly above average here in this third week, and certainly not the fourth week. So we'll check that going forward and continue to adjust this longer period. Of course, these are always, the further out you go here, the moderately low and low confidence levels are given for that reason, because we just move, once you get to 5-6 weeks, that's probably the outer limit of what you can do that it makes sense and can verify. But these are the ones that move around the most once you get out in weeks 5 and 6. So just keep that in mind. We have a couple storm signals that we are talking about going forward. One is around the 27th, 28th time frame, and then I think some better signals coming in, although they're going to be hard to identify because there's a lot of activity in that first week of January. It looks like it's a very active period. So we just listed additional storm signals here between New Year's Eve and the end of the first week of January. I think there's going to be multiple signals in there, and pinpointing that is going to be a little tough, but it does look like one's going to come right at the beginning of that range, right around New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, somewhere in that range, and then again during the week ahead. So we'll continue to follow these signals very closely. These winter storm signals, I have to tell you, have been stellar so far. We've had some very good ones. Now, these storm signals are just indicating a favorable pattern for storm development, not necessarily guaranteeing a direct hit from a storm or winter storm. And then anything that is done as far as amounts of snow and ice and things like that are handled on a short-term basis. But this particular one we had this past week was done very well in advance. This appeared on our November 27th long-range outlook, the public long-range outlook that we do on Fridays. That was Friday, November 27th, and we identified the period between the 14th and 17th to see a major winter storm. And guess what? This is what happened. So it's amazing that sometimes these work out with impeccable accuracy, but storm signals are still working out. They just might not be what you wanted as far as snowfall. This one is. Okay, this one did produce a lot of snow across our region, a lot of 10-inch plus readings here in the interior. Some battle zones across the I-95 corridor, but Philadelphia still got over 6 inches of snow. And areas are in the immediate suburbs did, we're in that 6 to 10 range. Once you got up to, from Harrisburg to the Lehigh Valley, parts of northern New Jersey, You were kind of like, you were getting close to, 10, 12 inches there. We were a little bit low here where the dry slot came in and some changeovers to rain, or excuse me, sleet occurred pretty far north, a little further north than we thought, and that's because of this big death band here that we expected to be further south. Ended up in an area from about just north of State College through about Williamsport up here to Towanda, Susquehanna County, and then especially over the Binghamton area in New York where they had 40 inches of snow, which is insane. And several other readings like that up here in parts of South Vermont and New Hampshire. So this was a really big band here that just dumped some incredible snowfall rates per hour. Had some 7-inch per hour readings up here at some points in parts of both Pennsylvania and New York. And actually that extended into New Hampshire and Vermont as well. So this is where that band set up a little bit further north. So it's not like you guys got shafted up here. I'm seeing a lot of, I saw a lot of that too, which I just ignore. It's nonsense. But Wilkes-Barre Scranton area gets in the 12 to 15 inch range and it's a bust supposedly. Whatever. Okay, that makes you feel better. But this area here did not get to 20. Okay, but you still had a ton of snow. And all the way back to about the Selinsgrove area, same deal. So northwest New Jersey, we thought might get into that heavier banding here, but everything shifted further northwest with that. But we still got a heck of a lot of snow out of this. And for December, this is historic in terms of amounts of snowfall that was put down by a December storm. This is not typical to see these kind of storms in December. And as a matter of fact, I know I've been referencing this over the past couple of days here. But Allentown, Pennsylvania had 11.5 inches of snow at the airport. The all-time record high was 13.3 from one storm, and that was one time in 1966 on Christmas Eve. Okay, so it's not very often it's a very rare situation that you see this kind of level of snowfall, especially this over such a large area here. Now, the areas that did get shafted were further southeast here where they had mostly rain, and that includes Atlantic City, southern two-thirds of Delaware. The northern parts here did get into some snow. But they had a change over here to sleet, freezing rain, and then eventually rain in some of those areas. Here's what average snowfall is across our region. I use this every week in the Outlook just so you can see where average snowfall is for both December and the month ahead, for the current month and month ahead. This is what average is. Philadelphia is above average now. Allentown is more than double above average. Harrisburg is more than double above average. Scranton, more than double above average. Okay? Newark, more than double above average. Atlantic City, you're still here at a trace, so their southeast areas did not make out as far as, when we say above average snowfall across the river, well above average snowfall, that's what we're talking about, because the majority of our region is in these outlooks. And going forward into January before I get to this is what we're looking at for average snowfall in January. It does go up in January. You're expecting more snow in the month of January. Right now we have near average, but it might be adjusted higher if things are going to work out the way I see it right now, sitting here on Sunday morning. So here's what we have year to date. This is compiled by the National Weather Service Eastern U.S. Regional Office. And this is where the column on the right here, I just highlighted some areas that are pertaining to our coverage area here in the red. Williamsport area, 24.7 inches of snow. That came in one storm. That's a 2-day record from this past week. And the normal snowfall year to date is 5.6. So the right column is what it should be at this point through yesterday evening. Okay? 5.6 inches is what you're supposed to have. Obviously well above that. Wilkes-Barre should have 6.7. We have 15.3 there. Okay? Allentown, 3.4. Allentown had 5.3 inches of snow last year, by the way. 13 inches of snow so far this year. Newark, 11.9, should have 3.1. And the list goes on down here. Everybody's above average, including Harrisburg. Here's Philadelphia, 0.3 inches of snow here last year. 0.3. You should have 2 inches year to date so far. You have 6.6. So not only are we ahead year to date totals, but also well ahead for the month of December. And then here is Atlantic City, we're the only area where the areas in far southeastern areas that do not have above average snowfall. That's close to the shore points in southern New Jersey and Delaware. So that's where you're getting shafted at the moment. But going forward here, that's not going to be the case. I think you'll have some opportunities here. I just don't know that you're going to have an overwhelming amount just yet. We'll obviously handle that on a more shorter-term basis. Everybody's talking about Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. This is going to be a rain system, very mild out ahead of it and rain. Once the system passes, there is the opportunity that you could have some flakes at the very least, and maybe some accumulating snow in far western and northwestern areas within our coverage area. That would be central PA, north central PA, maybe parts of northeast PA. I think you can get into some snow here. Just light snow, minor snow, but this is primarily going to be a rain and wind event on the lead of this trough, and it's a very deep trough coming in, so you're going to have temperatures that are going to be in the 50s the day before on Christmas Eve, but then on Christmas Day, you're going to have temperatures plummeting. Some black ice concerns here, some wind concerns here on Christmas Eve. Here's what the snow map's putting out. You can see where that's going to be. Now, this is where it's showing a changeover. You might get some, get some coatings up in these where we're along that line here, but further northwest of that line here, you're getting some minor accumulations, and again, that's going to be chances for that to occur are going to be in central PA, north central PA especially, and also parts of northeast PA, but it's not a ton of snow, okay? But there is a changeover possibility on Christmas Day where you can see not necessarily white Christmas that has happened the night before, I guess, because it's going to be raining, but on Christmas Day itself, you have the opportunity for that to change over to snow and have at least some snowflakes flying here on the Christmas Day, and that might extend all the way almost to the Delaware River. We'll see how that plays out as far as snowflakes flying, not necessarily sticking, but we could have some flakes pretty far east. Just the accumulations are probably going to be in the interior for this on Christmas Day itself. I think the bigger issue here is going to be the wind, and here's the wind loop here wind gust loop going on Thursday night and into Friday morning, and you got some pretty good wind gusts coming in here, 25 to 35, some higher than 45 actually, as peak gusts. So this could be a windy time frame. Hopefully there's no power outages that we're dealing with here on Christmas Day. That would be bad, but we'll keep a close eye on this, of course, throughout the week. We have clients that are very in tune with this information and need this critical information that we pass them, so we will obviously be on top of this as far as wind's concerned. But it looks like it's a kind of like a squall line coming through. Winds will pick up ahead of it, but you're going to have a squall line basically come through. Might even be some thunderstorms involved with that, because you're going from low to mid 50s down to 30s in a matter of hours with those crashing temperatures here on Christmas Day. So it's going to say, in order to get the temperatures to drop that quickly and that far, you're going to need something big to disrupt that, and I think the wind is going to be the concern with a low-level jet screaming through our region. Here are the temperature periods for the next 2 weeks, and this is using Lehigh Valley International Airport, or centermost point, and you can see we're generally slightly below average, then we head to near average for a couple of days. Here's that big spike. This is on Christmas Eve, and then it says 43 here for Christmas Day, but that's because the temperature is going to start off warmer in the morning and then crash, so this is not really indicative of what it's going to be on Christmas Day. It's going to be crashing and get a lot colder throughout the day. Temperatures falling through the 30s and then 20s. And then we take a big dip here the day after Christmas. Next 2 days after Christmas, we're below average. But then after that, you're kind of hanging near average. These numbers here, as you head into January, this is average for this location here, very close to it. Okay, and you don't need, as far as snowstorms and things like that, you don't need below average temperatures this time of year in order to get snow. Near average will suffice. It'll be enough for most of us. Okay, so if you get any storms in here, and we have some storm signals in the first week of January timeframe, actually going from New Year's Eve through the end of the first week, we have some identified storm signals. You don't need below average temperatures to get that. Okay, so, there's some chances here, multiple chances during that first week of January. I think it's going to be active, and you'll have that opportunity. Here's one of those storm signals we identified around the 27th, 28th. GFS is not too thrilled with it. It is a storm signal, though. It has some light stuff here, and once it gets up east of us, then it wraps up and really wraps up for New England. This is the current GFS projection. Does not mean it's going to work out this way. The signal is still here for us to get accumulating snowfall across our region, so we're going to remain with that storm signal in this time period. I do think there's something there. It's just a matter of, who gets it. Does it shift further east? There's definitely going to be a storm, and that's what we're trying to identify with these storm signals, and we're going pretty far ranges out before the models even pick up on it. This is what the GFS's guess of what it's going to be. All right, doesn't mean it's going to work out this way. We'll cover this in the shorter term when we get a little bit closer. Now, we said in the last week that we had a polar vortex split with the primary barotropic lobe heading over Hudson Bay in northern Canada, and that did in fact happen this week, okay? So that led to the temperatures are what they are, and this is with the 50 millibar level here. So this did in fact occur, this split, with the primary lobe going over North America, and going forward, here's where it is now, and it's going to retreat back to the polar region. So that's why I think you have that warm-up and that thaw, so to speak, as we head into the second week of January, because this is going to consolidate. This is a lag time of about 10 to 14 days or thereabout to downwell to the troposphere where we live and affect our sensible weather. So we'll consolidate over the polar regions again as we get to later in the month, past Christmas. It looks like it's going to be up there by right around Christmas or thereabout. It'll retreat. So that's going to set up the second week of January to be a little bit milder. But then after that, once it's up here, very late in the month anyway, this is going to, it's projected to split again, and this will affect our weather downstream. I think for the second half of January, we can turn colder again. So if we do have this warming, like this is indicating here, and I'm not sure why this is going so slow. I think I did this wrong. I wanted to just go a little bit faster, but the whole idea here, this is going to force another split and send another lobe down here over North America. So we're going to get into colder than average temperatures. Second half of January, climatologically coldest time of year. You don't necessarily need slightly below average temperatures for that to occur, okay, for snow to occur, but there it is nevertheless. And here's what's causing that it's a sudden stratospheric warming that causes this eventual split, okay, and this is now going forward here very slowly. But you can see here comes the warming over the poles. Sends one lobe over here, one over Europe, and then another one coming here over North America. And you can see this nicely now. This is what it's doing. Okay, so what does this all mean? If I put this on take a cross section of this, going from the surface all the way up in the atmosphere, these warm periods here. This is the current one we have that had the split polar vortex. Okay, that affected our sensible weather, and this blue here indicates where it's going to be retreating back to the pole. These are the polar cap heights here. All right, so here's a warming episode. Here's a polar cap heights that are lower, which means that the polar vortex is back over the pole, like I just showed you in that loop. But then right after that, you get another very strong warming signal coming in here, and that's the one we're going to be focusing on for the second half of January and how long that thaw period lasts. I don't think it's going to last as long as people thought it would, at least not what we thought it would here doing this outlook on Friday. If this comes to fruition, we're looking at a cold second half of January with, again, increased snow chances after that. So I do think you're going to have an active first week of January, where you're going to get some snow. This goes through the evening of the 22nd of January, and this is the total mean snowfall on the extended GFS. So there's plenty of opportunity here going forward. Again, looking at our maps here for the month of January and what you need, it does increase what the average is, but we can certainly get average snowfall at a minimum. Especially if you're here in the interior. But this is the mean snowfall, blending all of those members, all 30 members of the ensembles together to come up with this mean, and it's still pretty active here going into the month of January. So the idea that this was a one-trick pony, this was a 2016 deal where we had one big storm and then the rest of the winter was crap, is probably not right. I think you're going to have plenty of opportunities going forward, and those winter outlooks that said we were going to have below average snowfall are useless. I'm going to keep pounding that at home every single week. In a summary, I'm going to keep this up here because this point cannot be emphasized enough. Winter outlooks continue to be useless and will likely fail miserably yet again. This is why we don't do them. The stratospheric changes can change the ball game of everything. You can say, oh well, it's a weak La Nina or moderate La Nina or whatever, and past years did this, so that means this year is going to do this. No, it does not mean that. There's no 2 years that are the same, okay? And there's things that happen intraseasonally that can change the ball game. So me putting out a winter outlook on November 1st or whenever, projecting for the next 4 or 5 months ahead, is pointless because these changes can completely alter these outlooks, just like last year. Oh, epic winter incoming. Yeah, how did that work out? Not so well. This year, oh, another repeat of 2019, another warm and snowless winter. Strike two. So take these winter outlooks for what they're worth, which is pretty much nothing. Okay, they can be a guide sometimes and give you the general idea, but this is the second straight year where they're gonna fail miserably. It looks like. A few chances for some additional snow through the remainder of December. Kind of weak systems over the next couple of days. We got one today. It's not really doing too much. And then you have Monday night, couple more snow showers. And then we have that Christmas Eve to Christmas Day deal. That's primarily a rain event. Again, back-end snow on Christmas Day for some interior locations. Might have a storm signal 28th or thereabout, somewhere around toward the end of the month. Another signal coming right around New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. A couple in the first week of January. So there's additional chances here going forward here. We will deal with that on a shorter term basis, of course. And we're watching the stratospheric changes over the next few weeks that could affect January snowfall chances, because I think there could be a limit to that January thaw, the proverbial January thaw that everybody looks forward to every year. But I do think you get it, but I think it might be shorter lived than people originally thought, and that's going to be predicated on what the stratospheric changes are and how that reacts to our sensible weather going forward. So that's this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, December 20th. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas if you celebrate that, of course. And, we will join us again next week. We'll have one on next Sunday, the 27th. It'll be an additional, the next Weather Weeklies video. One change, though, we do have the long-range outlook. Instead of going on Friday, which is Christmas Day, it will be published on Saturday, the day after. So we will not be open on Christmas Day. So I'm going to do that long-range outlook for this week on Saturday and the Weather Weeklies video on Sunday as normal. But we join us again next week. And, of course, I'll have any updates to that longer-range pattern. Hopefully you make sense of that first week of January, which should get quite active as we see it right now. Take care.